A woman gives birth to a giraffe. I'm just kidding. But I'm sure that captured your attention, as it certainly did mine, for that is the subheading for a section entitled The Art of Deception in Dwayne Morgan's book called Everyday Excellence. Everyday Excellence is a self-help book for workaholics written by Canadian spoken artist and public speaker Dwayne Morgan. In this book, Dwayne identifies the key ways in which one will be able to achieve success and self-actualization. In this book review, I'm going to summarize the 3 sections of this book and its major claims, which are: figure out what your passion is, never be resistant to change, and to never lose sight of integrity. Ultimately, this book seeks to provide comfort to those in a predicament, such as an identity crisis. Part 1 is called Forward. In this introductory section, Dwayne introduces himself as an introvert who makes a living speaking to and engaging people. He further goes on to explain that this is not a self-help book, but rather a self-hope book. He reveals that in 2011, he knew he hit rock bottom when he had only $9.67 in his bank account. This section is used as the basis to explain his trials and tribulations, to show readers what he had to overcome in order to reach success and self-actualization. At the end of Part 1, he encourages everyone to live like they're dying, and he even includes a poem entitled this. Part 1 is relatable to Chapter 1 of Beyond Feelings because the primary question it probes readers to answer is, who am I? One cannot find out what your passion is if you don't know who you are as a person, beyond your name and physical characteristics. Part 2 is called Fly Me to the Moon, in which he states that the easiest way to predict your future is to create it. In this chapter, he emphasizes that nothing is impossible, as history shows us by using the example of being able to reach the moon as an action that was considered an absurd concept at one point in time. With this notion, he insists that one should never be satisfied with the mediocre, and the only way to surpass mediocrity is to embrace change and explore unfamiliar territory, for it can lead to great things. This is easily the biggest point he tries to make in this section. This part of the book and his emphasis on embracing change is easily relatable to Chapter 9 of Beyond Feelings. This chapter explains how bias against change is more prevalent than bias for change, which is the point Dwayne tries to make in this chapter. Part 3 is called Embracing Awesome. This chapter talks about the art of distraction, as mentioned earlier. He states that this is almost impossible for the distracted to follow their passion because they are constantly being pulled in different directions that lead away from it. What caught me off guard was his point to validate this, which was that we live in a society where people can recite more facts about the lives of their favorite celebrities than they can about those of the people that they interact with on a daily basis. Further on in this section, he explains that when one has reached self-actualization and success, it is important to make sure you do not lose your integrity, for it is easy to become caught up in yourself and accomplishments that you lose sight of what really matters. I find this part of the book to be relatable to the story of Enron, because the story of the Enron is an epitome of corporate greed, because all those who were at the top of Enron, such as Ken Lay, Jeff Skilling, and Andrew Fastow, lost their integrity and credibility when success and big checks came their way. I truly believe that this book is very insightful. People around my age are constantly on the search of what their fuel and their core of their existence is. I know I am, at least. This book offers clarity, and Dwayne is a 42-year-old man who has experienced what one would call a midlife crisis. This style of writing definitely suits such an intended audience, which is why I selected this book. I know in regards to the e-portfolio that some of you are struggling to identify what you see yourself as professionally, and I think this is a great read for those who are in such a predicament. To conclude, the 3 main points of this 3-part book is to figure out what your passion is, never be resistant to change, and to never lose sight of integrity. Ultimately, the words of Dwayne Morgan in this book is comfort food for those who are experiencing what can be considered a midlife crisis and want clarity. Though this opening line of this book review was a distraction, you must make sure you are not distracted in what's important in your life. And if you are, well, I recommend reading this book as soon as possible. Thanks.